Welcome to ET with GOTB. This weekend we lost a giant of a man and a giant of women's football. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Well, the world of women's football came to an abrupt halt this weekend with the tragic and sudden passing of Matt Beard. It's been a hard couple of days, I think, for everyone involved. He was a true stalwart of the game, someone who's left a very big void, but an equally huge legacy. I think news like this always puts things in perspective. It seems almost futile to be sat here to talk about women's football, but it was something that he was deeply passionate about and something he would want to continue to grow. But tough weekend.
Yeah, very tough weekend, I think, for everyone in the game. You can only look at all of the messages on social media from players, both of his players and rival players, coaches, media. I think everyone was very, very touched by Matt Beard and his presence in the game. He was a constant in the game for very such a long time. He always championed, the sport and everyone in it, I think, and I just can't believe it, to be perfectly honest. I think it was a very emotional day yesterday at the Man United game. A very emotional press conference afterwards. I just think everyone who was there, getting through it and supporting each other, that was a lot of pride in that too.
Yeah, I think we will say more and put more in words. I think it's a bit easier maybe to write down than speak about, but we are going to do that as well. So we'll put that out later on today. But in the meantime, I'd like to send our deepest condolences to his wife and his children, his family and his friends, and all of those who knew him and were touched by him, which there were many. If you were following us across our socials this weekend, you will know that we based ourselves up in the Northwest to cover a number of WSL games, as well as Manchester United's Champions League qualifier against Brann. Congratulations to them on making history and qualifying for the Champions League proper for the first time. It means there will be 3 English teams once again representing on the European stage this season, giving us a right headache in terms of deciding where to go and when. We will give you a quick rundown of their opponents later in the episode. But first, we will have a quick look at the results in the WSL. We'll look at the table, key pointers from those games. We'll do your player of the week. We'll do your standout moment. And then we'll talk through team of the week too. Plus, we will run through the action in the WSL too. We'll look at the results there as well before coming back to Champions League. Okay, so results in the WSL are as follows. Everton 1, London City Lionesses 2. Goodwin with the brace and Momiki with the goals there. Tottenham 1, Manchester City 5. Fagino, Miedema, Kasperai, Clinton, Coombs and Holt with the goals. Chelsea 1, Leicester 0. Who else but ABJ netting in that one. Brighton 4, West Ham 1. Hayes, Seiki, Kafaji, Olaslagers and Asai scoring there. Manchester United 0, Arsenal 0, and understandably Aston Villa versus Liverpool was postponed. So that game will be rescheduled later on in the calendar, I'm sure. It means that the table looks like this. It's only taken until the 3rd weekend for Chelsea to get themselves clear at the top of the table. The only team with a 100% record thus far, but as I said, we are only 3 games in, and they're on 9 points, with Manchester United and Arsenal below on 7 points, and City and Spurs below them on 6. Liverpool and West Ham are the only 2 teams yet to get a point on the board, but Liverpool do have that game in hand. Okay, we were at the Everton versus London City Lionesses game on the Friday night. London City Lionesses getting their first 3 points on the board, getting their first points on the board, their first win, their first lots of things, their first brace from Izzy Goodwin, her first goal in the WSL. So still ticking all firsts for them. Everton's slow starts continue. I'm kind of wondering whether he really knows his preferred starting 11. He seems to be tinkering a lot with it. I said this to you afterwards, that anytime they start slow, bring on subs, the subs do well, those subs start, then they don't start well, then subs come on, the subs help, the subs start, and it just feels a bit, maybe there's a little bit of consistently lacking there. And then, of course, quite a lack of productivity in the final third, which was frustrating at times, but it was, another game at Goodison Park, which is really nice to be at as well.
Yeah, I think 2 managers who are really trying to figure out their teams for different reasons. Well, kind of the same reason in a way. I guess for Jocelyn and Pressure, it's kind of different in the fact that they're new to the WSL. It's their first campaign. He's had 17 new signings. It's not easy to figure that out very quickly. He was speaking about how, he hadn't had a few available until a couple of weeks before the start of the season. So that is going to take a bit of time to get them gelling, to get some cohesion. He was talking a lot about cohesion and trying to build the foundations for success in the future. But I think this will get them up and running in lots of different ways. I think I really liked some of the adjustments he made. Saki Kumagai went into the midfield area, gave them a lot more balance and defensive cohesiveness in that area. He put Wassa Sangari at the back. That was obviously, I think, to deal with the pace of either Onea Vinolia, who actually started on the left, or Kelly Gargo, who obviously is speedy as well. So she was brought in to deal with that, but she had a really, really good game. I thought she really announced herself to the WSL. And then, they were playing well. It's not like Everton didn't have chances; they did, but London City
quality of chances.
Yeah, but London City took their chances, I think, as well. And Isabel Goodwin, we've all been waiting for her to light up the league. She is an absolute class act. I remember talking to Justin Pressure at the end of last season when they won the trophy, the championship, and he was like, I was actually annoyed with her because her ceiling is so high. She has so much to give this game and so much to improve on. And this time he was like, well, she's just obviously adjusting to the WSL. It's the highest level of football she's ever played. So it will take her time to adjust. But, 3 games in, she's played every single minute for London City. So I think that kind of shows the kind of faith that he has in her.
But also, as a profile of a number 9, she's got quite a lot of attributes. She doesn't kind of fit into one kind of number 9 type. She's got the height, but she's physical too. She's got good footwork. She's fast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different assets to her game.
She can drop deeper. She can play on the wing. She has all of this versatility, and I think that's going to really help her going forward, especially when you're thinking about senior caps and international football. She's on the brink, and I think anyone who's watched Isabel Goodwin play for quite a while now, even down in the Championship, realise that London City, have a real talent on their hands. She's obviously been very talented from a very young age, and I think this is now her chance to step up. And she's being clearly given the keys to the attack and going say you are a lead striker, go run with it, and she's doing that.
Yeah, and I think there was some concern with all of the new signings coming into London City Lionesses with them being promoted, that some players like your Izzy Goodwin, who literally got them into the, she was the one who scored that unbelievable goal on the final day of the championship last season, that they might not get a look in. So great to see her not only playing but performing as well. So it was good to see.
Just a word on Everton. I think that you're right. Their slow starts they're being punished by them at the moment. I think it's always a problem. I mean, they had 9 new signings, I think Brian said, at the weekend. So he is trying to figure things out.
He's got too many choices.
The cohesion. I think he went with the tactics are really good, to be honest, in this game, because he went with what was right. He saw the pace that Tony Payne could deliver down the right. He knew he wanted to stretch the defence in behind. He had Onea on the other side doing the same thing, and then Kelly Gargo stretching the play in the front line. So they had a really direct front line, and again in that first half they were getting behind Rafi Atamuran, going straight down that right side, and it was just that end product in the final third,
decision making.
And that's, I think, it was incredibly frustrating watching from the sidelines, and I imagine incredibly frustrating for Brian Sorensen, is that his tactics are getting them in the right positions, but it's just like that lack of quality in the end product that is kind of meaning that they're losing these points in these games at times.
Watch those games back. It might be in the highlights, but those moments that they get down on the right, and you'll probably see yourself going, pass it now, and it's just another couple of yards are taken, and by that stage the gap is closed and the option's gone and the defence is back. So
I thought he was a bit slow to make changes.
Yeah.
I think he didn't make changes until maybe the 60th minute or something, and you could see that maybe something needed to happen at half time probably. The people who came on, Katie Robinson had a brilliant game when she came on. Yuka Miki had a brilliant game when she came on. They are game changers. They can come on, but they needed a bit more time. Everton were on top in the final 15 minutes. London City did feel like they were hanging on a bit to that lead, and they did that very well. But you did think that you kind of felt that if there was another 10 minutes to the game, Everton would have found a goal. They just weren't quite clinical enough in those moments.
And it's just, I think, a case as well, given still early on in the season, it's just a case of tightening up those passes, being a bit less sloppy in possession. And they're not the only team like that, I think, at the moment that are still trying to figure things out. So, but the problem is this is such an unforgiving and short league that these games really can hinder where you ultimately end up on the table. Okay, next game also on Friday was Tottenham versus Manchester City. Spurs looked okay for the first 20 odd minutes or so. It looked like quite a good game, a bit of a battle. And then, I feel like Manchester City just kind of started to put the foot on the gas a little bit, put the pressure on. You're starting to see that kind of fluid play, running forward, those passes quickly between midfield and out onto the wings and back in, and Miedema's out to the left and back in again to Bunny Shaw. And it's, Fagino's there. Fagino had a great game. Wonderful goal from her to open up the scoring. And it did feel a bit like getting that goal so early in the game for them allowed the floodgates to open a little bit, because it hasn't really happened so far yet. It didn't happen against Chelsea despite the chances they created. They found themselves behind against Brighton despite the chances created. So actually, it's almost, I felt like for Manchester City, it was a case of getting an early goal in the game and the floodgates would open, and they kind of did.
Yeah, they did. I think attacking wise, they just blew Tottenham away. Actually, Tottenham edged possession, which is surprising. But Tottenham were really good in the press. They were compact. They were playing good without the ball. I think it was that third goal that really kind of took the wind out of their sails just before half time, and just gave them that extra mountain edge of the mountain to climb in that second half. And they actually did pretty well to keep out the goals until like the 80th minute was the fourth goal. They just didn't really offer anything up front other than Olivia Holt's screamer at the end. Really good, but too little, too late. But I think in terms of Manchester City, you can see what Andre Yeglets is trying to do. He's trying to be dynamic and fluid in those attacking areas. The fact that you can lose Lauren Hemp to an injury and bring Carolyn in, and she has a player of the match performance.
Yeah,
it's outstanding. You mentioned Fagino there, to have 5 different goal scorers, incredible. But I also think you just look at the stats. They created 25 shots, had 10 on target, and had a XG of something like 4.56.
And a penalty missed.
And that's even without Bunny Shaw firing. We've been for so long, I think the last couple of years, going, well, if Bunny Shaw isn't in the team, or Bunny Shaw is, just not on her day, then City will struggle. And you're starting to see that actually others are stepping up now and coming in with the goals and doing that.
And I imagine that will take the pressure off a player. A player like Bunny Shaw is going to be going, I should be 3-4 goals up at this stage. But it takes time, particularly coming back from injury and particularly at the start of the season. So I imagine it at least takes a bit of the weight off, knowing perhaps now other people are stepping in and scoring goals, and it gives them a little bit more confidence. And I reckon it means she will be even more confident going out, because God love her, the longer she went on not scoring, you just felt it wasn't going to happen. And I knew as soon as the penalty went down and the ref asked her to fix the ball, I just said, she's not going to score this. It was another thing to just, and it was funny because I think Miedema or someone had there was a clip of Miedema going, nope, and handing the ball to Bunny Shaw. But equally, I think, had she scored that penalty, she probably would have scored another goal.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? And it's just
that she obviously scored that brilliant header the week before. And then you thought, well, because she'd missed a couple of chances, and you thought, well, that's going to start her off. But I think when you get a penalty miss as well, that kind of sets you back again a couple of steps. So it's just going to take her a bit of time. As you say, she was out for so long with injury during that spell that it's just going to be a little while until she comes back.
I think this will be a steep learning for Martin Ho. He looked a very frustrated figure on the sideline. Every time the camera cut to him, he was shaking his head like he was not happy.
Almost steam coming out of his ears.
Yeah. But he feels like the kind of manager who'll go away and know exactly where they went wrong and will immediately be addressing it. So a big lesson for him, an important lesson for him early on in the season.
I think the annoying thing for him is that they went that goal down. It's a brilliant strike. You probably aren't. There was maybe a defensive error in the build-up, but you're not really stopping that. I think the manner of Viv Miedema's goal, just the way that they let her in at that post
there's no one
for the corner
behind her.
That will frustrate him, and that suddenly puts you way on the back foot because you're suddenly chasing games.
I think what frustrated him as well is that City had a corner a couple of minutes before that, and it was a front post corner, and they learned nothing from it. They just allowed her free at the front post. Like, she had a player around her, but like a player who was not as tall as she was, it just kind of, it's a bit futile having the person there at all. So that would be annoying as well, because you had the opportunity to recognise what Manchester City might do. But as you said, 5 different goal scorers. Hopefully Lauren Hemp's injury isn't too serious. It looked a sore one, and it's the last thing Manchester City need. But with the likes of Karen on the bench, at least they have some cover in that position. Okay, move on to Sunday's games. Chelsea 1, Leicester 0. This one perhaps a bit of a surprise, because Chelsea scored so early on, scored in the 7th minute. A bit of a mess in defence in terms of the ball was poked through and it just seemed to ricochet off a number of defenders and straight into Aggie Beaver-Jones's path with nobody around her. To the point when I saw it first, I thought she must be offside. But no, the ricochet, fell kindly to her, and she's never missing from there. Like, her record at the moment of goals per game is unbelievable.
Insane.
I think previously to the last game, which she scored in as well, she had scored in 74% of the games she started, so that's got to be higher now.
Yeah, and 3 and 3 this season is just showing the kind of form that she's in. She's in so much confidence, and she's kind of helping Chelsea out massively with that kind of. Sam Kerr's just coming back. It's going to take her a while to get up to full speed. Then got Ramirez out, Lauren James is out, so they are maybe a little bit short in terms of their normal, reliable attacking personnel. So Aggie's just stepping up and just showing. Well, she showed what she could do last season, but she didn't start a lot of games this season. She is now taking kind of the bit in her teeth and going, well, I'm starting games, so I'm going to make you stand up and realise what I'm about.
Very hard to bench her, yeah.
So she is in some form.
I think, incredibly, Leicester had 42% possession in this game, which was quite surprising. They created 9 shots to Chelsea's 10, but the difference in these two teams is the quality, and the accuracy for Leicester was 2 of 10 and Chelsea's was 8 of 10 on target. Although they did have more successful final third passes than Chelsea, which is, I feel it was Chelsea's masters of their own downfall a little bit. They were sloppy in possession, and maybe that allowed Leicester to feel a bit braver. But I also think Leitzig in goal had a number of saves to make. She made an incredible save of Kira Walsh, who, my God, has a boot on her. She needs to do that more often, because
starting to see her get
unbelievable save from Leitzig in the first half.
I think Chelsea are still finding their groove. I think it might take a little time, just because they're just feeling their way back into things. And for them, as long as they're winning, they do, that's what matters, because they know, laws of probability is it will come at some point in time, that full form. I think it's amazing that Leicester got 42% possession at Kings Meadow. I think they averaged 36.3% possession last season. And last week
they had 28% against Liverpool.
28% Liverpool last week. So they aren't a team who enjoy a lot of possession or play with it.
I thought City.
Oops. But yeah, they're not a team who play with a lot of possession, so go and kind of rack up that figure. I sent you a chart last week of their possession from last year, and that has to be one of the highest, I think, all of 2025. So I guess that's good for them. They're starting to get hold of the ball a bit more. I did think they had equalised with that shot at the end. I was just like, who was it? Funny? Who hit it? I can't remember who hit it. Rosella Ayan hit it from distance. It hit Hampton tipped it onto the bar, and then the rebound came back to Van Egmond, who skied it over the bar, but she was offside anyway. But I did, as I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, that's an equaliser.
We were watching the Brighton West Ham game in the press box, in the media room, before the Manchester United game, and I said, there's only a few minutes left. I'm going to put on the Chelsea game, and tenor bats Van Egmond does what she did in the last game, scores at the last kick of the game, and I kind of went, oh my God, have I almost predicted this happening?
You didn't.
I didn't, but listen,
it was close.
Sonia Bonpastor is not worried. She knows, she said, look, I'm tinkering with things, I'm trying things out. She said, it's on me, the players probably just need a little bit more consistency, but she has almost the luxury to do that. Maybe this would have given them a little bit of a scare, but knowing the quality they have, the depth they have, they can try things, they can figure these things out now, so that when they're coming up against teams that may be challenging them further down the line, they have that all worked out. So I wouldn't worry
Chelsea
too much.
Win these games, right? There's just whether they're playing well or they're not. They're playing not well, badly. They find a way to win these games, and that's what has made them champions for the last 7 years or 8 years or whatever they're on.
6 years.
6 years
in a row. Okay, next up, probably the most exciting game of the weekend: Brighton 4, West Ham 1. I probably wouldn't have called this scoreline. I think Brighton would have won it, but I don't think they would have won it in the manner that they did. However, I think West Ham will be incredibly frustrated with their performance in the first half in terms of their inability to get out of Brighton's press. Brighton's press was so effective, and West Ham just couldn't figure it out quick enough, I think, to a degree. I'm sure it's difficult to get messages across the pitch during a game. Brighton did very well to capitalise on that pressure. Fran Kirby had a brilliant game. I thought she was pulling the strings. Michelle Adjumang could have scored. She'll be raging. I think she's one of the few players, I don't know if it's just at Brighton, who's had the most shots without scoring or some statistic like that.
Centre forward who just needs a goal.
And it's funny because you look at what she's done in the summer and you look at goals per minute there and it's a completely different story.
But I think there's a kind of different pressure on her now, and I think she's adjusting to that. She's adjusting to playing 90 minutes. She finished, I think, if I'm not wrong, out on the wide areas. But she's been given a responsibility at Brighton to lead that line, and there is a pressure that comes with that.
And that's what we wanted from Michelle.
And there is a pressure from the summer as well. She made a name for herself this summer. Made herself, the household name that she now is, and people immediately expect that to translate into WSL. And you just have to remember, she's not played. Yes, she played last season, but she's not regularly led the line or played 90 minutes at all. So this is very much the beginning of her career. It's going to take her a minute. Once she does score, she will start scoring. And
properly. It's what a lot of us said about Michelle Adjumang, was that she needed to go to a side where she was going to be the number 9. And start banging in those goals, and I think that will come. But
this will serve her so well. Yeah, rather than 100%. Her sitting on the bench at Arsenal and maybe playing 5 minutes every now and then.
Yeah,
this will serve her so well.
I think West Ham were lucky to get in at 2-0. I think when they conceded the 2 goals, Caitlin Hayes with the header first, and then Kiko Seika with the second. I think they were just glad to get the half done, to get in, to get some information into the team, because they came out an entirely different team, much better at escaping the press, creating an awful lot more. Getting up in and around Brighton's final third, and it was just that quality of not taking their chances. They did ultimately get a penalty, which Viviane Asseyi dispatched, but I think the problem then when you're pushing and you're chasing 2-0, you leave yourself more open, and Brighton showed what they could do in terms of...
it was also, the problem was the quality of goals, right? So
the Kafaji goal, another Arsenal loanee.
They get themselves back in to 2-1, and you're thinking, well, they could equalise here. They're looking good and then creating chances and they're pressing well, and they've managed to fix what was going wrong in the first half. And then Rosa Kafaji steps up and does exactly what she did, and absolute worldie goal. Go and check it out. I'm very pleased with her for her. I think she's had a real tough time since coming to the WSL. This is her chance, like with Michelle, to show what she can do and to start getting minutes regularly and show that she can impact games and do it well, and that make Arsenal step up and take notice. And she got an assist for Seika's goal, and then she scored that absolute banger. But it kind of just took the wind out of West Ham's sails, because they had been on the front foot, and then suddenly they're 2 goals down again and they're chasing a game, and that's when it gets really, really tough, because you feel like you've done the work to get back into things, or like at least get close, and then something like that happens, and you're just like, well, this really sucks, essentially.
It just reminds me a bit of Everton in that, and I've seen some people say they don't know what West Ham are about. They look at West Ham and they can't figure out what they're trying to do. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm watching a different team to everybody else. Because
we know what they're trying to do. I don't think they've activated it well enough yet. No. They're not finding ways to get like the likes of Shakira Martinez on the ball, who is like their instinctive ball scorer. They need to figure that out. But the principles are there. The press is there. They struggled in the first half. That happens. They just couldn't work out a way how to break through Brighton or break their press. So it was just like, you
look at what they did to Arsenal in the first half.
Yeah.
That's what the team is about, right? That's what they're trying to do. It's just that it's the repetition and the quality to be able to do that game by game, every game. And I think that's what teams that are in that middle table are finding difficult, is consistency.
But their problem now is they've got Chelsea next.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, it's been a pretty horrible start to the season, and you just need to figure out how to keep those foundations in place.
Next question: if your teams like Everton and West Ham, would you rather get your Arsenal, Chelsea's, Man City's out of the way early on, lose those games, figure out what you're trying to do, and then have a bit more about you when you come to the teams in and around you, or facing the teams in and around you early on when you haven't quite clicked?
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I would always probably prefer to have the teams where you think you can get points on the board, just because then you can start getting momentum. But as with West Ham, they would have looked at their Tottenham game on the opening day of the season and gone, we could win that.
Yeah.
That's our 3 points.
And they should have.
And if they'd won that game, you could have seen, maybe not the Arsenal game, but you could have seen, them getting confidence and finding their feet, them getting the goals. I think that's where the League Cup will come in handy this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's where you have the opportunity to kind of reaffirm your ideas and what you're trying to do, and another 90 minutes to get it into the players for teams who are still kind of figuring that out. Okay, final game of the weekend was Manchester United versus Arsenal, which we were at. Don't call it a dull game because we will get told off. But perhaps not the most exciting game. It felt like a game of two well-drilled defences with forward lines unable to penetrate. And you'd said on Twitter that you didn't find it an enjoyable game, and someone felt the need to tell you that Fallon Tullis-Joyce had a world-class outstanding game. And I was like, I think she only made like 2 or 3 saves, one of which was a very good save. But like, do you know when you're trying to look again and you're not biased, is actually... Do you know what I mean? That just stuff like that, you're a bit like, okay, maybe we're looking at it differently.
Just like, the funny thing is that if anyone knows me, I'm the biggest shouter-outer of defensive performances. And maybe it was like, there were lots of different things going on at yesterday's game. And I don't think football was the priority, but
I quite frankly don't think football should happen this weekend, personally.
But so, I mean, I certainly didn't want to be there, and I can imagine many other people.
Can you imagine West Ham?
Yeah. So I just think it's there's a lot of context to these things. Yes, it was a good defensive performance. I can shout out some good defensive plays, but the quality at the end of the day was poor. There were missed passes, there was wrong touches, there were opportunities that went straight.
Go and watch the highlights.
When you create between the two teams, there were 5 shots or 4 shots on target in the entire game.
Out of about 18 shots created.
That shows a lack of quality. And yes, it was a good defensive performance, but there were other things going wrong as well.
I think if you look at the highlights, there's just so many shots that go like quite wide or quite high over the bar, and you're like,
wow, it passes like there's a person free there and it just goes completely the other direction. There were just so many errors that I just couldn't see past it. We'll talk about one standout player later.
Yes, we'll get to that, don't worry.
But I think I would just want to also shout out Kim Little in the midfield, because you don't often think of, maybe more so nowadays, but you don't often think of Kim Little as that physical player. But she was getting into the duels.
Yeah.
She was stopping United's attack. United, there was some interesting stuff going on. United obviously played Melvin Mallard, and she was looking to stretch the line and get in behind. She was actually handled pretty well, I think, by maybe in the first half there were a couple of opportunities where she got through.
There was a triple save
but in
quite
the
early
second,
on.
But in the second half, she didn't really have a sniff, I don't think, at getting through. She was marshalled pretty well by the player I'm about to go on to talk about. And down the other end, I was really actually surprised by Stina Blackstenius starting. Not because I don't think she's good, and I do understand the reasons for starting her, but I just think it's been such the first 2 games, her and Mourn coming on, impacting a game, changing a game, has worked a treat. Mark Skinner predicted Stina
It's not a surprise anymore starting Blackstenius against Manchester United.
He literally in the press conference on Thursday night after the Champions League game, he said it about 3 times that he was pretty sure Renee Slegers would start Stina Blackstenius because they will start Stina against him. So he wasn't surprised, and
the backline wasn't surprised.
They were ready for it.
I am going to give a shout out to United overall. Because post-Bran game, Mark Skinner spoke about how he wanted them to be monsters out of possession and make sure that Bran felt Manchester United, and equally touched on players sacrificing their legs in the game. And I asked him, can you do that again on Sunday? And I actually think it was a really assured performance from a team who had given their all 3 nights ago and knew they were coming up against a top team. And I think they handled them very well. And while, yes, some of it was down to poor finishing, I also think that Manchester United defended and attacked and played well in midfield overall. And I think probably deserving of the point out of the game. And I think that will stand to them when they come to Champions League and start to have more frequent, important games. So that's my shout out. Now, as you said, and kind of almost spoiled, you want to touch on Katie Reid. So if you could maybe give me your player of the week.
Katie Reid. I just think, for someone who's not played, yes, she broke into the Arsenal team a bit last season, but not played regularly especially in a centre-back position. It is her natural position, whereas last year we were seeing her when she came on, or started occasionally, she started right back. She is a natural centre-back and she looks so comfortable there. But I think for someone to be given that shirt in, the first 3 games of the season and to perform like she has done, other than that penalty against London City, I'm not sure she's put a foot wrong. She looks so calm, so composed on the ball. She is, out of the Leah Williams school of central defenders. She is a ball-playing centre-back. She loves to have the ball at the feet. She's good with her passes. She drives forward. She has that ability. She's so calm in possession. And the way that she was handling Melvin Mallard on Sunday, she was matching her for pace. She wasn't, shying out of the challenges. She got her body in front of her when she needed to. Ended up with her on her back at one point. That was quite funny. There is actually a brilliant photo out there of that moment. But I just think that she was so calm and composed, and she didn't look like, the youngest player on the football pitch. And she hasn't looked like the youngest player on the football pitch. And Renee Sleggers was really gushing about her at the end. She doesn't often like to talk about players individually, but she was saying how well she's done and how she does have things to improve. Of course she does. She's only young, but that she's really stepped up and made it impossible for her to drop her at this point in time.
Okay, next up then, standout moment. Now I know this player you wanted to touch on, and you also wanted to touch on Katie Reid, so we've worked it that you can reference both.
So my other player of the week, now standout moment, is Izzy Goodwin, and I think we've talked about her
and London City Lionesses generally getting their first points.
But Izzy Goodwin's goals, I think both of them just showed exactly what the kind of instinctive striker she is. I think the first one, to react that quickly and to spot the gap before it closed with the defenders and to lift it high, just in that kind of split reaction moment, really just showed what she's about. And the second goal was just as instinctive. It was, such good movement, and to drift away from the defenders, get into that space. She was unmarked, but to be able to do that and send it home as well.
That second goal she scored, I am still learning with 2 cameras at the same time, and I switched lenses as she was in the air connecting with that ball, and as I did, I just thought, God, that would have been a good shot.
Did you cut off her head or something?
I just didn't get it because I had no camera in front of me at the time. The way I saw it was I'd gone, and I was like, there she is.
There was one photo, I think it was maybe United Bran, that I looked at.
I could literally,
yeah. I had the shirt downwards.
Sometimes I forget that I can actually move when a player jumps. Anyway, I'm still learning. Right, let's quickly run through your team of the week, please.
So I've got Janina Leipzig in goal, Leicester City, Kirsten Kasparai at right back, Katie Reid, of course, at centre back alongside West Sangari. Anna Sandberg did really well, marshalling Olivia Smith.
Again, another good performance from her.
Yeah, she's very good. So Manchester United at left back, Erin Cuthbert in the middle. I think she's quality. Maisie Simons had a really good game for Brighton, as did Fran Kirby, pulled the strings. For Gino on the right wing, Manchester City scored that brilliant goal. Izzy Goodwin, of course, up front, and then Rosa Kafaji on the left.
All right, let us know who you would have in your team of the week, please. Be nice. It's a chat, not an argument. All right, let's just quickly move on to WSL 2 results. We had Sunderland 2, Durham 1, super goal from Kitchen. Go and watch that one. Birmingham 4, Newcastle United 2, Charlton 0, Ipswich 0, Nottingham Forest 1, Palace 2, Portsmouth 1, Sheffield United 0, and Southampton 0, Bristol City 1. That's Ipswich getting their first point.
Good first point as well, because Charlton had won every game. Yeah. The 100% record is over.
It does mean now in the table that Birmingham are top of the table on goal difference with 7 points. Sunderland and Charlton below also on 7. And down the bottom, Sheffield and Ipswich both sit on 1 point each. On to any other business. Firstly, Champions League. We had the draw last Friday, which felt more complicated than it actually was. But I just feel like it dragged on for I said this to you, it doesn't feel like a draw if you're not really drawing teams, you're just pressing a button. So then you kind of lose the draw element of the draw. It's just like, here's a team. They
went so quickly through it. And I'm not one to normally criticize going through it quickly through draws. You normally want them to speed up, but this was like boggling my mind. And maybe because I've never watched the Champions League draw in the men's side, because they've obviously had this format for a couple of seasons now.
And we just don't care.
And we don't watch that. So it was a new experience for all of us.
It's not a draw. Anyway, so it means that Arsenal face Lyon at home, Bayern Munich away, Real Madrid at home, Benfica away, FC Twente at home, and Leuven away. Chelsea face Barcelona at home, Wolfsburg away, AS Roma at home, St. Pölten away, Paris FC at home, and FC Twente away. And Manchester United face Lyon at home, Wolfsburg away, PSG at home, Juventus away, Vålerenga at home, and Atletico Madrid away. So some welcome to the Champions League fixtures for Manchester United, that's for sure. It's definitely created more high profile, if you like, fixtures, and everyone arguably is playing at least two, which is the same with the group stages, big names. It does mean it's only one leg as well. So if you're playing against a Barcelona, hopefully it won't be as damaging. So yeah, there's that to consider, but we are still working out where we're going to go, which games and where. I will say it's made it a little bit less exciting than previous seasons. It just feels like, at least we're not going to Paris again, because I love Paris, but going for football, it got a bit competitive. But it does potentially mean Wolfsburg, which, please no. We have managed to avoid, Real Madrid at home for Arsenal. So there's some things we're avoiding, but yeah, it's an interesting one. Also, as well, potentially by the time you're listening to this, the Ballon d'Or is happening tonight, which means it may already have been
insert winner here.
Yeah, by
congratulations,
tomorrow.
Whoever won.
I'm not going to insert winner here because I'm editing this afterwards. But yes, that is definitely one to keep an eye on.
I am joking.
and perhaps a harder one to predict this season. Coming up this week, the Subway League Cup, of course, kicks off around the country. So a busy week for all teams, like a 3-game week, as they call it. So plenty of football there. We will be missing it because we're doing something for my upcoming birthday. So apologies that was planned for Wednesday. Then we're going to Arsenal versus Aston Villa on Saturday. There's also the small matter of the Rugby World Cup. Do tune in. England are in it. And then we haven't decided yet. We need to decide between either Brighton versus Everton or West Ham versus Chelsea. We need to choose a fixture there because we did spend the whole weekend in the Northwest. So we're going to stick closer to home this weekend. A reminder that I didn't do at the beginning of the episode, which I'm sure you can understand, to subscribe wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Make sure you're following us across all of our socials as well. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything. Do subscribe to us on Substack. There are both free and paid options, and there is still currently a deal running on subscription there as well. So make sure you avail of that. Otherwise, we will chat to you all very soon.